2024 for our regular city commission meeting. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Mayor Skidmore.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present.
Commissioner Clayton.
Present.
And Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Wonderful. We have a lot of people here in the gallery as well as watching on some form of social media, I'm sure. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor's not here, so we'll pray. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this evening, for this special time we can be here together. Lord, we give you thanks for the rain that we've had that we certainly needed. It came in a very timely manner, and the way it came, we're just thankful for your replenishment of the soil that we need. And Lord, for this election that we just experienced, we just do pray a healing of our nation now as we go post-election, that we can come together as United States of America, as we just said, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We give you thanks, Lord, that you sit on the throne as well. It says in Psalms that you sit on the throne. You sat on the throne the day before the election. You sit on the throne today and forever and ever. We're thankful for that sovereign God that you are. And now, Lord, as we look over the issues today, just give us wisdom and guidance, direction as we yield to you to give us the wisdom we need to discuss these issues and make the right decisions. We just commit this time to you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll start with public comments.
We have 3 registered for XI item A.
Okay, so when we get to that item, I'll read the restrictions on the public comments. We'll move on to item number 7, which would be the appointments, proclamations, recognitions, and nominations. And we do have a proclamation for the Prairie Paws Animal Shelter. The animal shelter help both people and animals by responding to the needs of the community with everything from matching homeless animals with loving families to educating the public. Vanessa Cowie, Executive Director of Prairie Paws, will accept the proclamation. Will be read by Commissioner Clayton.
Proclamation reads as follows. Whereas, dogs and cats are an integral part of the quality of life of our community, with approximately 4,912 pet dogs and 4,113 pet cats living in the city of Ottawa, and 89.7 million dogs and 94.2 million cats nationwide. And whereas, animal shelter employees must respond to the needs of the community, keeping animals and humans safe from harm. And whereas, animal shelters make communities better places to live, taking stray or dangerous animals off the streets and out of harm's way. And whereas, animal shelters help both animals and people in many ways by returning lost pets to their owners, community partnerships with area nonprofits, educating the public, and matching homeless animals with loving new families. And whereas, animal shelters receive important donations of money, goods, and volunteer time to assist in their important missions. And whereas, Prairie Paws Animal Shelter reflects best shelter practices with veterinary care, behavior modification, and socialization programs to provide the best possible outcome for each animal in its care. And whereas, the City of Ottawa is one of the safest cities in America to be a homeless pet. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim the week of November 3rd through 9th, 2024 as Animal Shelter Appreciation Week in the City of Ottawa, Kansas, and calls upon its citizens to recommit to the animals in our community with responsible pet ownership and support of local efforts to help homeless animals. Signed the 6th day of November 2024 by our Mayor, Michael Skidmore.
One, two, three.
Thank you so much for doing this for us. This is National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week, so it's recognized all over the country. And I've been driving around Kansas doing all of these proclamations, and this is the last one, and it feels extra special because it's really where Prairie Paws started. But I think it's really important that when we say we recognize the animal shelter, we recognize the people in it. And this is just really important to my staff and my volunteers who are working tirelessly to do this often selfless work. So I just thank you so much for appreciating the people inside of the building.
Thank you, Vanessa. And I've just been thinking, I've been on the commission here for a little over 10 years, and it started out kind of rocky, but with Melissa going on board and then with you coming on, continuing to carry the torch, you've been an excellent job in keeping things going and growing, and glad to see that you're doing a good job there. So keep up the good work.
Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which we have the minutes from the October 21 City Commission meeting, a special call. We have the minutes from the October 23rd City Commission meeting. And we do need an amendment, but does someone want to make that motion to consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the subtraction of item 10A.
Okay. There, second on that?
I will second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move on to the declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, we'll go on to item 11, new business.
Item A, request for approval of ordinance allowing the licensing and regulation of massage establishments and massage therapists.
This ordinance establishes clear guidelines for the licensing and regulation of massage establishments and therapists, ensuring the safety, professionalism, and accountability of businesses within the city of Ottawa. And we have Attorney Finch. Oh, I don't know who's going to go first.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I know we have folks here who want to speak to this item as well. I think if I can give an overview of kind of why we're having this conversation now and how we find ourselves here, I think that will be helpful. I know our city clerk has some thoughts that she can share with you as well. Ottawa has no provision in its city code for legitimate massage therapy establishments. We know that millions of Americans every year avail themselves of massage therapy and massage therapists for any number of health conditions that are made better by this legitimate medicinal treatment. But our only provision in our code treats all massage establishments as adult-oriented businesses and treats them the same as adult bookstores, adult theaters, bathhouses, and other displays of nudity. And so in the course of the last several years, we've had 2 new applicants to the community, in addition to longstanding massage therapists in the Schischler family who have provided services to hundreds of Ottawans through the years, trying to establish their business here in Ottawa and running up against the fact that our code only would allow them to exist as either an adult business or to participate in essentially a legal fiction of saying, well, massage is not our primary business, we're really something else, and we just do massage as a side business underneath our main line of work. And we started several years ago when there was an application for a new establishment in the 100 block of North Main to say, hey, we need to update our code. And the then Director of Community and Neighborhood Services started that work. And then he moved his career back to Topeka, and that work was abandoned. And in the course of transitioning through different folks, that kind of fell to the back burner. And then this fall, we received a new application from someone outside of the community who is a person of faith and was absolutely opposed to the idea that their business might be labeled as an adult-oriented business. Which was something that was antithetical to both their personal beliefs and their professional attitude towards the work that they were doing. I believe this applicant would bring the same type of professional service that we've seen from the Schischler families and from others in this community. in terms of what they are trying to do. So we revisited that research that had been done a couple of years ago, brought that forward, and the result of that is this ordinance that you have before you. It is a lengthy ordinance. It is based on an ordinance that several Kansas cities have adopted, including Overland Park and Gardner in our area. So you have one larger city in the metro and one more comparable city in terms of size to Ottawa. But their provisions are largely the same. And the architecture of this ordinance is that the first 20 sections define and regulate and provide licensure for massage therapy establishments. And those are designed to provide for the safe delivery of these services in a safe, hygienic environment that is regulated, that permits are applied for and granted by the city. These premises are inspected, and they are open to inspection by law enforcement at any time. And that is designed to ensure that all of the activities there remain legitimate and above board and focused on the health and safety of those who avail themselves of those services. Not only do we regulate the establishment, but then the people who work in it are massage therapists. And so sections 21 through 28 of the ordinance has kind of a parallel licensure process for those who would participate, who would engage in the practice of massage therapy. The state of Kansas does not license massage therapists. If they did, this would be much simpler. We would just say you have to have a state license, and then you can practice massage therapy. But since they don't, we have to set forward all the things that might exist in a state statute here in the ordinance. And so 21 through 28 covers the massage therapist, 1 through 20 covers the establishment in which the therapist might work. And then sections 29 through 30 of this ordinance amend the adult business code to take massage out of the adult business code because we are regulating it this way. And I would argue, as you look at this, and if you look at Article 11, Section 10 of our municipal code on adult businesses, this is a much more relevant and targeted regulatory scheme for massage therapy than what we have under the adult business code. The adult business code treats all adult businesses the same, regardless of what they are or what they do. And this is very much focused on the practice of massage therapy and tries to be very relevant to what's going on in that field. So that's how we got here. That's kind of the 30,000 foot view of the ordinance. A couple of things that I would draw your attention to. We do have a number of practitioners who are already here. And so we do grandfather them in on page 10 of the ordinance. If you are an existing massage therapist, at the time that this ordinance goes into effect in the city, you are exempted from having to show your education credential and go through the training, and you are exempt from the continuing ed requirements as long as you keep your license current. You do still have to do the CPR training, and you do still have to pay your fee for your license, but we do acknowledge that there are people here who probably could teach classes on massage therapy in our community, and so we do grandfather them in. We have tried in every other respect to keep the lightest possible touch on the people who are practicing, pun intended, Mr. Mayor, while also providing for the health and safety of our citizens who need massage therapy. And we certainly want to make sure that they can continue to get that service here in our community and not have to travel outside of town to see a massage therapist. So with that, I'll stop, and if you would like to hear from our city clerk or have any questions of me, I'm happy to come back and help answer questions from you all or from the public.
Mr. Finch, the exemption of the continuing ed, is that a norm that you see in other ordinances that you've read through?
It is the norm, certainly in these massage therapy ordinances, yes, okay. Commissioner Crowley. And I suspect that, again, goes back to the fact that the state does not regulate this. Thank you.
I also have a question. So on the fee structure, under this new ordinance, it would be $200 for an establishment and $50 for the permit. Currently, under the adult business code, it's $250 for an establishment and $50 for a permit. But basically, this would incorporate more people. Is that correct? As this they're excluded if the massage is not their primary business.
So that was, and that's the next item on your agenda, is the resolution to actually set the fees. You'll recall that on a number of items, not just related to business licenses, but other things, we've moved in the direction of allowing for the commission to set fees by resolution instead of writing that into the ordinance and having to pass a new ordinance each time. Now, where did that fee come from? That came in consultation with the city clerk based on the regulatory burden. And you'll note that to grant a massage therapy license, there is an inspection by Community Neighborhood Services. There's a background check performed by the police department, and then there's work that has to be done by the city clerk as well in order to prepare and grant the license. So this was a fee that that department felt was fair in light of the work that would be done. It is lower than the adult business establishment license, and it's $100 cheaper than the fee in Overland Park and Gardner, which is $300 for the establishment. So we tried to price it right to what the work would be, and also to keep it lower than surrounding communities on the fee. But of course, this is a resolution, so that's just a staff recommendation. You all can decide what fee you want to charge.
Looking through Article 10 and all of kind of Chapter 11, do we have anything specifically for chiropractors, doctors, physical therapists, tanning, waxing, kind of other physical touching, and especially things that would kind of fall within some of these areas of the body that we're concerned with?
So
in other areas that we're requiring licenses or any of that?
Commissioner Clayton, good question. And this one again goes back to that state not licensing situation. So those other things that you've mentioned, medical practice, chiropractic, esthetician kind of work in a salon, are all regulated by the state in some way. And so whether that's through Board of Healing Arts, or whether that's through the Board of Cosmetology, all of those other services that you mentioned have in some way some state regulation, state oversight, and state inspection. So we don't have to put ourselves in that position. If you think by analogy, think about food trucks, where food safety is regulated by the state and handled by the state, and so cities don't, and you all in fact relax your food truck regulations once the state took that role, and you don't have a food inspector that goes around and inspects restaurants and inspects food trucks here in our community. You leave that to the state regulators. And I think I missed Commissioner Allen's question, which I think ties into this. What happens if it's not the only line of work? What if they're doing something else? This would only apply to the massage portion of the business. So if they are otherwise, if a group of nurse anesthetists wanted to add a massage function to their office, their therapist would need to be licensed under this ordinance locally, because they're not licensed in that way for anything else in the state. And if they were a hair salon, I think was the other question, what if a hair salon added massage as a service? Then again, that would the massage part only would fall under that. We would not be going in and inspecting the hair cutting and all the cosmetology things that's governed by the Board of Cosmetology, only as to the massage therapy portion. And this allows for one portion of the business to be dedicated to massage therapy without a need to inspect the whole premises or insert the city into the other activities going on there, as long as they're lawful and regulated elsewhere.
And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but regarding the inspections, I'm kind of curious, are we trained, and what are we looking for when we do an inspection?
So the ordinance contains the requirements for what a massage therapy establishment must have. Section 7 talks about the inspection, walls being clean, painted with washable mold-resistant paint, and all rooms where water or steam baths are given, floors free from accumulation of dust, dirt, and refuse, all equipment maintained in a clean and sanitary condition, towels and laundry folded and laundered, not using towels for multiple patrons, using sheets or paper that can be replaced. We've all been to the doctor's office before, and they have that paper that they roll out there on the table, so that can be done. And then not doing that in a locked room where inspection could not be had. So there's nothing in here that is like a building inspector needs to know things about, how far apart wall studs should be, or fire separations, or fire blocking. There's nothing in here that's technically specific or requires reference to some outside code. These are all terms that are fairly straightforward. And I suspect that, and this would be up to Mr. Neese and his staff when they do their part of the inspection, but I suspect that it's going to be the inspection pre-license. And unless we receive complaints, we're not looking for a reason to go into these businesses and do inspections.
And And then for the people who wish to do this in their own home on a part-time basis, and no zoning restrictions of any kind, then that.
Yeah, so good question, Mr. Mayor. You recall when we talked about bees prior, we got into the whole notion of home occupations and what could be done in homes throughout our community. Ottawa has a home-based business provision, and we allow for service-based businesses. In fact, we kind of encourage those more than manufacturing and retail sales because of traffic concerns. You'll recall that came up when we talked about selling of garden goods or honey in someone's home, and it's much usually if you're an attorney or an accountant or an architect or a massage therapist, you're seeing one patient or one client at a time, and that doesn't generate a lot of cars parking on the street and traffic and noise affecting the neighbors. So this would be allowed in someone's home. That room where they provide that service in the home would be part of a licensed massage therapy establishment. We also allow, if someone has a doctor's note and has a medical necessity, for example, travel is a problem for them, they're not able to move about, then a massage therapist can go to their home under doctor's orders and provide massage therapy in that patient's home, and we find sometimes that that's necessary. In addition, this does allow for what they call chair massages above the waist. So if American Eagle during the holiday season wanted to have chair massages and have a therapist brought in to help their employees through that busy season, they would be allowed to do that under this ordinance and help folks out that way.
When when you had talked about the people being grandfathered in, is that anywhere in the ordinance?
That's at the top of page 10,
Okay.
subparagraph C. Individuals working as massage therapists on the effective date of this ordinance may within 90 days thereof provide evidence of their work, and upon presentation of evidence satisfactory to the city clerk be granted a license and renew that license notwithstanding failure to satisfy the minimum education and testing provisions in section 21A1 and 2. So that's the exclusion from having to follow those education and testing and then continuing education requirements. So if they do lapse that license, though, they will have to comply when they come back on. So they would have to show that they have that training at that point.
Looking at section 7, subsection B, just kind of throughout the inspections and stuff, listing like out toilet facilities. You know, with some of these existing businesses and a lot of businesses, and specifically the downtown corridor, are we essentially saying if someone is opening a massage parlor, we're requiring the structure to be brought up to the building codes for those types of things and have public restrooms available and all of those?
So this is a section we actually amended and made it different than what you had in Overland Park and Gardner, who actually required separate sex-segregated lavatory facilities. And we said in our community, we have a number of buildings, as you said, where there might only be one restroom or two restrooms in the whole building. You know, you think about the older 25-foot frontage buildings downtown. So we said as long as they're meeting city code, they're fine. And so those buildings that are existing now and where active businesses are taking place would be code compliant. The idea was not to add a burden to say you only have one restroom, now you have to have one for men and one for women. Which is what the code seems to imply in both Gardner and Overland Park. So this was a catch by our Community and Neighborhood Services Director, who said, what if we just say comply with code?
Thank you.
Any more questions for a counselor? Yes, Melissa, want to add to this?
I don't really have anything to add. I think the city attorney's done a great job. I'm here for questions, but we do have public comment on this.
Okay, well, let me read this on the public comments, and we'll start that process here in just a minute. Subject to the above restrictions, persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items on the agenda may do so as that agenda item is called. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items not on the agenda and that are under the jurisdiction of the City Commission may do so at the time when called upon by the mayor. Comments on personnel matters and matters pending in the court or with other outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Any presentation is for informational purposes only. The governing body will take comments under advisement. And let's start with the public comments. So who?
Our first one is Guy Silverson, who is on Zoom.
Okay. Guy, you're on Zoom. You're up.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
So my name is Guy Severson. I am co-owner of graceful touch massage therapy in Rapid City, South Dakota, a very competitive market. We have gone from nothing to over 400 five-star reviews because we focus on medical massage. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to bring this to Ottawa as a satellite with a partner that is over in Ottawa, and we would be there sometimes as well, because we believe that what we are doing is positively affecting the community in restoring their body so they don't deal with pain and they don't have that problem with pain. And that's what we're all about, and why we are requested that Finch get involved in helping us to write this ordinance so that a professional massage therapy team, my wife and I, could be able to open our practice there in Ottawa as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Silverman? Okay. Next up,
Becky Schisler.
Becky. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Becky Schisler. I'm probably the oldest and longest massage therapist in Ottawa. I've been practicing since 1994, along with my husband and also with my daughters. We worked in physical therapy as physical therapy assistants in the Allen County Hospital before we started massage. And then Stan went to school because he was doing massage in the physical therapy department. And then he asked that I go also, so I attended. And then as our daughters turned 18, we taught them massage as well as many other people. There's probably, I couldn't tell you how many massage therapists around that we have taught. One of the things I wanted to bring out is the thought, Blaine brought out several things that I was thinking about after I talked to him. The cost of business here. To be in massage, as you all well know, you're either going to have to be in your home, which I'm not sure if you would have to have a special room set aside just for that, or you could do it in your bedroom or what. I'm not sure how that's set up. And I know that I have not talked to any massage therapists in Ottawa that are not legitimate. And especially if they've gone to school and they've received schooling, because they know they could lose everything one time. That's all it would take. So as far as getting it out of the adult business, personally, I don't think that we need all the regulations to do that. I think it could be taken out of the adult business without requiring someone who comes in to have 550 hours or whatever. Now, when we went to school, we went to, in the beginning, to Maggie Kelly in Topeka. And she was probably one of the first people who taught massage therapy in Kansas. And her theory was, let's teach massage. Let's teach the basics of massage, teach a person how to do that. We don't need all of this other stuff. Now, you can take that as a continuing education, which we did, Stan and I did. But if you go to a massage school now, they're with that 500 hours, they're going to, which is why we didn't go to a 500-hour school. They're going to have what we used to joke about as fluff classes. You can take crystal therapy. You can take Reiki. You can take hot stone. You can take cupping. You know, am I out of time?
We'll let you go ahead. Finish your thought there. Go right ahead.
Okay. A lot of things that we don't necessarily use in our massage therapy. And the average cost today is $12,800 to go to a school to receive that many hours. Now, when you come back into, especially someplace like Ottawa, we're not Johnson County, so we don't get to charge the prices Johnson County does. I make $40 an hour. And I'm not working 8 hours a day, you know, so as far as the price to have a license, Stan is semi-retired and he only does maybe 2 massages every other week. But he would need that license to practice. And it really wouldn't be up to, I mean, you don't pay that much for license to practice 2 hours every other week. And most of the massage therapists in this town are not practicing all day, 5 days a week, making big bucks, you know. And then just like my daughter Andrea, she had a surgery and she was out for 6 weeks. No money coming in, period. But she still had to pay her booth rent. And most people in this town pay booth rent of $100 a week if they're working in another establishment. So it gets kind of expensive for that. So that might be something to take into consideration. Let's see, I think that pretty much is it. I was licensed in Olathe. I worked there for quite a while, and I did have to go get a background check. I had to get fingerprinted. I had to get a mug shot, you know, which was not any really big deal to me because I didn't have anything to worry about. So I do understand the background check. But as far as what I really think that you need to take into consideration is the cost and the continuing education. I've probably taken 9/10 of all the continuing education courses there are. If I start taking more, I don't know what I'm going to be taking, because through the years I've taken about everything there is to take. And so I also think that that might be something that you might talk about, if you please.
Becky, what do they charge in Johnson County per hour for this service? Do you have any idea? Do you know?
Most people charge $90 an hour.
90.
Yes.
Twice what this. Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
And I'm assuming you get charged for continuing education. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
correct? So
Yeah.
that would be
You
an
have to pay
additional
for that,
expense
too.
as well. Okay.
Yes. And your room rent,
Mhm.
you know, or if you're building, if you're going to rent a building.
Very expensive. Okay.
So,
Sorry, on that continuing ed, do you know what authorizes a person to teach continuing ed? If there's no state board kind of over it, I mean, what authorizes them to teach a class to you that you can then use as continuing ed for a license? Do you know?
well, I belong to the American Massage Therapy Association. And that again, you know, that's $20 a month, which to me isn't that much for me. But for somebody who's just starting, already got all this other stuff, $20 more, there's half of another hour of massage, you know. They have continuing ed classes on there that I can take. Because I belong to that, I get them at a discount. Someone who just would come in wouldn't. I think that I'm not sure about the massage schools in Kansas City that teach massage, just massage. I know they teach, I know they offer in continuing ed because I've taken some there, but I don't know if you know, at this point, it's been a while since I've touched bases with any of them, so I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, Becky, thank you for your comments. And do we have any more?
I have one more, Robert Bowers.
Robert Bowers. Good to see you, Robert. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
Good.
My name's Robert Bowers, and a lot of people don't know, but I've been a massage therapist in Ottawa, Kansas for over 20 years now. This kind of hit me by surprise, and it's hitting me tonight too, that I didn't know that we're being mandated under adult business. I came into the business. I bought a building downtown, renovated it, had the blueprints all approved through the city, did all the work right on the blueprints. There's a massage room in it. I asked if there was any requirements. Nope. So I've been operating for over 20 years, not even knowing that there was any kind of regulations that are needed. About 2 years now, I retired. I quit charging for massage. I still do my family. I still work on a few friends, but I don't charge a dime. For continuing education, as she was talking about, every massage that you do is continuing education because everybody is different. A lot of this on the background or on the facilities, it doesn't apply to me anymore. I've evolved my massage to more of the medical therapeutic practice, and my clients, my family now, my friends that do come to me, they're fully clothed. I do it exactly. I could do it out on the street and show them how to do it. So anybody coming in, the requirements that you've got in this for your NCTMB testing, that's a very extensive testing. I've done the test. I've passed the test. I've got over 800 hours of training through different schools in the state, Missouri and Kansas. I did that just because when I started, this is a very female-dominated business. Most of my clients were female. I'm a male. I had to show that I was being professional and I was doing everything the right way. For somebody that you're going from 0 to 100, you didn't require anything. Now all of a sudden you want $250 a year for somebody to have a business and a massage therapy license. Then you're requesting them to do another 12 hours, which is ridiculous. There are NCTMB, they certify continuing ed classes. AMTA certifies continuing ed classes, but they cost a lot of money. I mean, a lot of them are 50, 60, 70 bucks an hour, a credit hour, and you're asking for 12 of them. So you're just adding more and more expense too. When I was doing massage for my business, I was only charging $30 an hour in Ottawa, which I know was very low. But I really think you need to look at the fee schedule, and I think you need to look at what you're requesting for these new people to come in and requirement on, because it's just a little bit out of line. And I've heard my timer go off. Thank you very much.
Robert. Thank you very much for your comments. Any others? That's it? Okay.
So with that, it's recommended that the City Commission deliberate and consider on the ordinance, either take final action this evening or refer this item to November 13th for further consideration. And I would stand for any questions.
Okay.
Can I,
Councilor.
I was just going to see if I could ask you just a couple of questions. Do you know, obviously having been at the state level as well, why massage somehow falls into the realm of, in the full spectrum of things that the state is essentially, what they are using their reach, I guess, on why is massage the one thing that they are not, or not one thing, I guess, one of the things.
You know, one of the things that happens from time to time in the legislature is you get into these scope of practice fights about what can a dental hygienist do versus a dental therapist versus a dentist. What can a physical therapist do versus a nurse practitioner. Of course, several years ago we had the physician versus APRN scope of practice debate. I suspect that what's happened year over year is that massage has been one of those things that's kind of because you have physical therapists who provide massage services and you have chiropractors and they have different scopes, and massage kind of fits into both. And a number of other practitioners at the state legislature said, we're just not going to step into a messy fight about trying to license massage therapists and figure out what is the scope of practice, because that has to be defined at the state level when they get into that, Commissioner Clayton. So a bit of speculation on my part, but it's based on some solid experience with what tends to happen when the state wades into these things.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could clarify, there was some talk about continuing education, and I hope note on top of page 10 again, back to that grandfather clause. If someone is practicing massage therapy on the date that this ordinance would go into effect, they are exempt from the 500-hour schooling. They are exempt from the ongoing continuing ed requirement, and that is different than other cities like Overland Park and Gardner, who require them to continue, everyone to continue to do the continuing ed. So in this case, the folks that you heard from today, at least the second two speakers today would not be required to do any continuing education if they were to be grandfathered in. I would also note a note on fees. Right now, under the adult business licensure, the fees are higher than what are proposed in the ordinance and resolution. Again, it's within your discretion to decide if you want to lower the proposed fee if you choose to adopt the ordinance and the resolution. But right now, the current fees are higher for a business that's in compliance. And then the last thing I would note is this only covers massage therapy services provided for compensation. So the last speaker said he's only providing his services to friends and family for free. He would actually not be governed under this ordinance because this only governs the delivery of massage therapy for compensation. So
is it a matter of enforcement? We've not been enforcing the current fee structure. It's just okay.
Yeah, it requires an ordinance like this to pull this out from underneath the adult business code. Right. And that is why I think you saw over and over again the response from staff was, well, just you're doing something else and massage is the secondary business. You're doing something else and massage is not your main line of work. And that's gotten us around it, but it's not really harmonized the activities going on in our community with the law. And we currently don't have bad actors, and that's a wonderful thing. But you don't have to cast your memory too far back to a time where there was an establishment in the community and there was concern that there were things going on there that were illegal. And we did not have the same right that we would have under this ordinance to provide the kind of enforcement and protection for the public. So it does happen, unfortunately, and thank goodness it has not happened here with any regularity. But we can't always just say, well, we'll take it out and not regulate it and hope that nothing happens, because you can certainly have an issue if that's the case. So anyway, that is, to answer your question, it has not been assiduously enforced, and whether it's someone putting a massage room in a building renovation or whether it's some of our current practitioners, we have not. And again, no one wants to have a heavy hand of regulation or oversight. It's I suspect that most all of our practitioners here in town will have no problem operating under this ordinance.
Mr. Finch, on the continuing ed part, we're not requiring folks who, within the time frame allowed, if they get licensed, to be required to have the continuing ed. But for a new individual coming in, we would require them to get the continuing ed, correct? So in my mind, I'm thinking I don't want another individual to come to our town thinking, oh, we're giving some special privileges to the folks that have been here. But on the flip side, I think about it as the reason that we're not really requiring that continuing ed to the folks that have been here is because they have a reputation of good, services, where we don't know what the next person's going to bring. So we have to rely on that continuing ed in order to prove what they're bringing to our community. Am I kind of reading that right?
No, I think that's exactly right. And think about what you heard from the speakers here tonight. I wanted to have an indicia of professionalism. I wanted my clients to know that I had gone through the training and that I had shown myself approved to provide this service. You heard from another speaker that they have trained people. They have literally been the instructor and given that instruction. And I think it is a recognition that the group of a group of massage therapists that you have operating in the community at this point are all fairly well seasoned and experienced and have a long reputation of providing good service. And over time, you will be transitioning to a new group of people providing this service who are coming here who may or may not have that legacy and that history. And at that point, you will want them to have that continuing ed, to do just as these speakers said tonight, give that indicia that they are trained, that they are professional, that they are keeping up on best practices. And taking care of people. I think you've heard plenty of evidence tonight from people here that they're doing that. They do that already. And that is written into this code in that way to recognize that and not have them have to go through that requirement.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments anyone have?
You had mentioned kind of looking at, I think, like Johnson County or Olathe and Gardner, kind of for
Overland Park and Gardner were the two that Mike Hall was the CNS director who started that search.
Do you know other municipalities that have this in place kind of in Kansas? Looking at Sedgwick County and Wichita and Douglas County, Lawrence, sorry. what are other places having this in place and we just haven't referenced them as much?
These were the two that we looked at because that was the research that Mike had done to date. He had looked at some other cities as well, but these two were kind of the, what I'll call the best version, incorporated kind of best practices. We did not go out and survey 10 or 15 more cities. Certainly can do that if you all want to know who all regulates. But we did not go much beyond, here's the research that was done, and it was ready for the drafting phase 2 years ago, and we said, let's pick it up and move it forward. We do know that these two, we did update these two and check the code currently. These are still in effect in those cities, and we then made changes to that to try to tailor it here. For example, the continuing ed exception was changed. The lavatory requirement was changed. And so we lowered fees, obviously, in terms of the resolution proposal in front of you. So we did make some Ottawa-specific changes, but these are still current codes in the areas where they're in effect.
And could you had mentioned a business previously that there was concerns. If there's a business downtown that's not a massage, does not fall in this umbrella or another umbrella, there are concerns. How does that get investigated by the police, or how does that kind of differ from this process by setting these things in place?
So if there were a business where we suspected adult activity was going on and there was a problem, for example, violation of state or local laws on prostitution or selling of sexual services, then that would be investigated by law enforcement. And so all of the, whether search warrant or probable cause to search the premises and all of that, this would give administrative authority to go and inspect the premises if that was suspected, or if there was complaints about cleanliness, or there was an issue going on in an establishment licensed under massage therapy. But obviously those kinds of things can happen in any kind of establishment. And so that's where law enforcement would be involved. And law enforcement is involved in this ordinance as well. They're helping with the background check, so they're aware where these places are at. And I don't know if Chief wants to expand on that or not, but okay.
Any other questions on this? I mean, personally, I think I can see, to remove it from the adult business is certainly, we would all agree to that. Maybe the fee structure and the requirements that we're placing on existing or new may be the point of contention, I'm understanding. So I would recommend that we postpone this to another meeting the next week to give us all a chance to kind of digest what we've heard tonight, read this, and kind of compare what we're looking at for as existing versus a new business. Ottawa. Anyone else have any?
No, I would be in agreement with that. I don't think there's any reason to rush, and I think the best thing we can do is actually do our research and make an informed decision.
I agree. Anybody else?
I agree. I would also, kind of how you'd mentioned, I'd like to know maybe the different communities that, not all of them, but maybe in our area that do have a ordinance like this to kind of compare notes with.
It'd be a good idea to see other towns our size, if we know of any like that would be comparable. It's a good idea. Commissioner Crowley, anything?
Nothing to add.
Yeah. Commissioner Crowley?
Yep, I would be same as taking some time to look at it, kind of you said, seeing what other cities and locations are doing. And then on that, I'm assuming if we would adopt this and then the state does come down in 5 years, they put something in place, would we essentially probably at that point, ours would supersede with home rule, and then we could either abandon it and go to theirs if that case came up?
Absolutely. And you have certain code sections, for example, that dovetail with state regulation. Roofers is a good example. The state licenses and regulates roofers. You also have some local code provisions, but basically what you do is you reference they have to be licensed by the state in order to be a licensed roofing contractor here in the city of Ottawa. So we would harmonize that to the state code if the state ever did get around to handling that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on timing,
Yes.
I might request in consultation with the city manager, if you don't mind setting this down 2 weeks to your November 20th meeting. Your agenda packets deadline is tomorrow. And so for us to get information for you would be a bit of a rush. And if we could have 2 weeks and let it lie, we'll get you some more information, and certainly we'll continue to visit. I visited with some of the speakers tonight and continue to make my line available to them if they want to talk in the meantime.
Very good. Everybody agree?
Yep.
On November 20? Let's do that then. All right. Thank you all for all your diligent work on this, and I agree with Commissioner Kevin said we want to make an informed decision. That's the best decision, so this will help us to bring that about. Thank you all for your work on this. We'll move on to item by the city comments by the city manager then.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, want to encourage anyone who knows of aspiring firefighters to consider applying here. We have a couple of positions open as some of our firefighters have departed for Johnson County. And so we're looking to fill those positions now. Also, provide an update on our playground and how that's really filled in nicely, and appreciate the work of our public works crews as they've completed that, and that has the that new fall foam sponge surface there. So we're excited to see our youth actively playing on the equipment. So that's exciting to see. I want to remind everyone that Section 27-5 is the portion of our code that regulates political signage and removal. So we have 10 days by our municipal code to remove those. So it needs to be removed by the 15th. And if anyone needs assistance for the holidays, ECAN will be accepting applications from November 4th through November 29th. And so for most of the month of November, our community partners there at ECAN, there are guidelines that must be met with respect to income and photo IDs. Want to ask folks on a separate matter, if they're north of town, if they're on the north end, to just be aware we have our street and stormwater crews are cleaning basins and doing inspections to the stormwater drainage system up there. So if you see our vehicles and work crews in that area, that started this week and will be ongoing for the next couple of weeks. So we just ask folks to slow down and change lanes if they're coming upon a work site where folks are working to keep those clean, which will then, of course, improve flow and reduce flooding. And so we appreciate what they do, because that's one of those things to where we don't really think about it until we need it. And then we hope everyone can turn out Saturday, November 9th at 10:45 for the much anticipated annual Veterans Day Parade. And then also noting that City Hall will be closed on November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. And if folks are looking for some family activities that are affordable here in town, we always encourage them to check out our Memorial Auditorium. And we'll have a couple of shows coming up, including the fundraiser for Prairie Paws on November 15th at 7 p.m. So for $20, you'll get exposure to a wide scope of comedians here who will be playing the craft. And I know my wife and I attended last year and found it very enjoyable, and look forward to that again. And then there'll be the show coming up on November 9th as well for Mike Ornette. And then effective the 15th, we'll have the restrooms in Forest Park winterized. And so then we'll look forward to a April-ish opening, maybe March, depending on what that weather, how bad the winter goes. And then our upcoming calendars, just highlighting that we are not anticipating a meeting on the 27th, nor on the 25th or the 1st. However, if we do need meetings, what we would do is we would call for a special meeting on that Monday at 4 p.m. if needed. But we do not anticipate anything at this time. Some tentative agenda items for next week. We'll have an accessibility advisory board interview There'll be a tentatively scheduled Fairway Vista resolution for the public hearing and the development plan. You'll receive an update on the service line warranty program, which has been discontinued, not on our part, but on the portion of the provider itself. Folks that are currently in the program will continue that as is. So we'll give you a more detailed rundown at that time. We'll also go over the golf course transition plan update and the communication plan to members. We'll have a request for purchase for a backwash motor and pump replacement at our water treatment facility. And then some administrative items for KDOT, which is our urban area boundary, and our urban functional classification system that is incumbent upon transportation planning at KDOT. So this is administrative updates, and we'll also have a utility payment kiosk update, and that could potentially get pushed just by volume and see how that looks. But for now, we're planning on presenting it at that time as well. So that concludes my report. If there are no questions from myself or another member of the team.
Questions anybody have?
4 restrooms, assuming Legacy Square restroom will also be shut down for the season.
Yeah, I'm assuming so, yes. But obviously open for events and functions as needed.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Good.
thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Good job. Commissioner comments. Let's start with Commissioner Clayton. Why don't we?
I will say, first of all, with Veterans Day coming up, it's been awesome seeing the banners as you drive around town. I know this year we've grown from last year, and hopefully we can keep doing that. I think that's an awesome way to recognize folks. I definitely am looking at the road the entire time driving, but when I'm a passenger, I glance up at some of the names, and it's really cool kind of seeing names that you see and you recognize people here in town, people that I've known, and you know that you never know that their husband, their wife, their son, their daughter, someone in their family at some point has served. So that's really cool. I think the flags on Main Street look phenomenal, so thank you to the crews doing that. And I also want to do a shout out for the, like better term, of the corner blocks. I don't know what we'd call them. The road markers with the repainting that I know Lisa Rivers and others are doing.
Yes.
Those are looking fantastic as you drive around as well. And now that it's dark so early, you can actually, they're almost glowing with that fresh white paint. With Election Day yesterday, just want to congratulate all the county offices that were elected or re-elected. Welcome Commissioner Meter to the County Commission, and then Commissioner Harris again being re-elected.
Very good. Okay, Commissioner Kaler.
Great comments, ditto.
Okay. Mr. Crowley.
Nothing to add.
Nothing. Pro Tem Allen.
I just have to say, in honor of Animal Shelter Appreciation Week, I thank you for Baby Bo Jackson, who is very entertaining, and people can watch on Facebook, do all of her funny things. So thank you.
That's great. And I just had a couple things, so I'm glad we have that sign ordinance. I think it's going to be an issue. Sometimes they kind of drag on and on. I know there's signs all over the place. In fact, someone even mentioned they accidentally voted for their realtor, I guess. And so we're hopefully get that all fixed now and reduce the number of signs, and maybe we'll be in good shape. I'll also say on November 30th is the mayor Christmas tree lighting, and I'll plan to throw the switch unless there's a charity out there that would like to auction off that right. In the past, I think we've auctioned that off to close to $300, or Commissioner Crowley, I think, had sold that. Did you get a commission on that, or is that?
It's still in the mail, I believe.
Okay, no check yet. But anyway, I'd be glad to auction that right off, to have someone stand by me and throw the switch. And if you're concerned about electricity flowing through that, it's a bogus switch, I found out finally after a couple of years. But anyway, it's a right and it's an honor.
When you do it, it's a bogus switch.
Yes. So anyway, I'll be glad to auction that off. So if there's a charity out there, email me. You've got my email address on the webpage. You can let me know, and we'll see who we can get that sold to. So I have that done for. Okay, let's go on to announcements. We've got our November 6th. We had a photograph tonight. That was done. November 13th will be our next City Commission meeting, as well as the 20th. There's nothing else to come before the City Commission meeting tonight. We are adjourned.